Le Nobel d'économie Joseph Stiglitz a reçu aujourd'hui le prix Anthony Atkinson pour l'égalité dans le cadre du Festival littéraire international Métropolis Bleue à Montréal. Ce prix est présenté par l'Observatoire québécois des inégalités. Joseph Stiglitz a été économiste en chef de la Banque mondiale, conseiller économique du président Clinton également. Il publie ces jours-ci un livre sur le capitalisme progressiste, People, Power and Profits. Nous l'avons rencontré un peu plus tôt. Monsieur Stiglitz, bonjour.
Nice to be here.
Nice to welcome you in Montreal. It's an honor to meet you and to welcome you on this show today. You just published this book, People, Power and Profits, and you talk about progressive capitalism. What is progressive capitalism?
Well, the idea is that in order to make sure that the economy serves society, we have to have a new balance between the market, the state, and civil society. The fact that I use the word capitalism means that the market is going to be an important part. But the reason I use the word progressive is the way the market has worked in the past, the way it's been working for the last 40 years in the United States, has not been serving most of our citizens.
For some people, progressive capitalism, it's a way to make capitalism acceptable. For other people, progressive capitalism could be more taxes and higher taxes.
Well, it's not just about taxes. One of the points that I make in the book is that the way the market economy on its own has been working creates a lot of inequality. The rules of the game favor a few, and that's why I use the word power. It's people, power, and profits. It's power generating profits against the interest of the people.
Yeah.
And we have exploitation of market power, exploitation of workers, exploitation of customers, exploitation of the environment. The important point I try to make is that this kind of exploitation actually slows down the economy, slows down economic growth, so that we could have more shared prosperity, more growth, if we had a better system of a more equal system. And this is before we talk about redistribution, taxes. It's really about the basic fundamentals of how the economy works.
In your book, you say that Donald Trump has a good diagnosis of the situation, but not the good answer to that. How progressive capitalism could make sure that globalization, capitalism, trade deals create trust from people instead of anger, frustration, and misinformation?
Yeah, so when I say that Trump has a good diagnosis, let me say what he really has been sensitive to, that there's a lot of unhappiness, that a lot of people have been left behind, a lot of people are feeling despair. That's one of the reasons why the life expectancy in the United States is going down.
Yep.
All these
incredible.
Deaths of despair, people committing suicide, drug overdose, alcoholism, symptoms of a social disorder. So he's recognized that, but he's given them false promise that he's going to do something about it. And instead, of course, what he's done is cut the taxes on the billionaires and the corporations, raise the tax on the middle, and taken away health insurance from millions of Americans, people who, you know.
He's trying to do that.
He actually has succeeded in taking away from some. He hasn't destroyed it in the way that he has wanted to, but he's already succeeded in weakening the system.
But do you think that there's a part, because Donald Trump promised to bring back jobs, to protect jobs, to create jobs, the unemployment rate is lower than 4% right now. Is there a little part of Donald Trump's policies who reduce inequalities, in your view?
Most of his policies are actually increasing inequality. His agenda of protectionism is actually going to hurt the very people who he says he's trying to help. The reason for this is that we are in a globalized economy. When we globalized, it hurt them. But now where we are, to deglobalize
Yes.
it without social protection is going to hurt them again.
Yeah.
They're
Why?
going to be
Why?
they're going to be less competitive. American manufacturing will be less competitive, and even if he succeeded in bringing back jobs, which I don't believe, the jobs will be different jobs from those jobs that are lost. The manufacturing that's going to be coming back is going to be done mostly by robots, mostly by AI, and it's going to be located in different places from the places where the jobs were lost, where unfortunately we have not invested in education and technology in the way that we should have.
You published many books in last decades. Le Prix de l'Inégalité, The Price of Inequality, it was in 2012. You wrote at that time, just after Occupy Wall Street, that there is a growing sentiment of injustice and a feeling of betrayal. Would you say that the election of Donald Trump is a direct consequence of these feelings?
Very much. And I said in that book that unless we did something about the inequality, it would open up the door for a demagogue.
And it happened sooner than you thought at this time?
I think it happened sooner, and I think it was a demagogue that was worse than I had anticipated.
Yeah.
That somebody who is not even grounded in truth, who doesn't really understand the foundations of what makes for the wealth of nations, which is about research, innovation, investment in people. He's trying to cut back our research budget, trying to cut back university education, attacking truth. We can't have a society that functions without truth.
Would you say that he is the result of inequalities?
In many senses, yes, he is. And the title of my book, The Price of Inequality, I chose very carefully to tell readers, summarize in one sentence, in one phrase, what the book was about. It was about the idea that unless we did something about inequality, we would be paying a very high price. It would be a price in our economy. We would grow more slowly. But I also warned it was a price for our democracy, that we would be prey for a kind of demagogue. And I said it was also a price for our society, because it would lead to a more divided society. And unfortunately, we're seeing that too. So around the United States, Trump is, because he's being so I say evil, because he's being so bad, he's brought out the other side and said, that's not America that we believe in. Mm-hmm. We have to restore trust in our government. We have to restore unity among our people.
Here in Quebec, inequalities are one of the lowest in North America. The market is creating inequalities. You said that, many economists say that. But studies show that government is reducing inequalities. And we have studies in Quebec showing that. Is the involvement of government is the very first answer to reduce inequalities for you?
It's an absolutely essential part of reducing inequality. Whatever economic system you have, you're going to have inequality. And there is an important role for government to mitigate or to the extremes of inequality, to make sure, for instance, that no child is left without an education because his parents can't afford it. But it's also the case that the government has to set the rules of the game so that there's not as much inequality in market incomes. So that's where I emphasize the important role of competition policy. Yeah. So you don't have the agglomeration of market power that leads to inequalities in market income. You need inheritance taxes, so you don't get an inherited plutocracy, which we are now developing in the United States.
One of the greatest challenges of our time, it's global warming. You co-chair the Commission on Carbon Tax with British economist Nicholas Stern. Is the idea of Justin Trudeau here in Canada to put a price on carbon is the good thing to do?
Yes, it is. A carbon price is necessary to encourage the kind of innovation, the kind of moving to a green economy, but it's not sufficient. You have to combine that with public infrastructure, with other changes, you know, zoning changes in land use, many other things that have to go along with it. And again, one has to be very careful in the timing and sequencing of these changes, but the necessity of moving towards a green economy, I can't emphasize both the urgency and the scale of what is required. And that's why, again, I have such admiration of some of the young people in the United States who have been talking about the Green New Deal, wartime mobilization. This is something that really is not something you can say, well, we'll take care of it in 15 years. This is something that has to be done now.
Mr. Stiglitz, it was a very great honor to welcome you and to have you. Thank you very much.
Nice to be here.
Thanks a lot.
Thank you.
Thanks.